Hello, my name is Irvin Schonfeld. I come from Brooklyn, New York. I was born in the Brownsville section. My mother came from Brownsville and my dad from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. We left Brownsville and moved to a housing project in the Flatland section of Brooklyn. At the time, in the early 1950s, through the decade and to the beginning of the 1960s, it was the most undeveloped corner of the borough. We were surrounded by meadows, freshwater swamps, stands of trees, even a couple of farms. And it was a great place to grow up. I have written a autobiography, or perhaps a group autobiography, about what it was like to grow up there. And if you looked at the neighborhood today, it looks nothing like what it looked when I was a boy growing up there. And what I've written is a story about, this is an excerpt from my book about growing up in that housing project. The name of the story is Snakes at a Mahjong Game. Our adventures in the lots on each side of the projects continued. Joel and I persisted in collecting snakes. We looked in rock piles. We looked in the tall grass growing near the swamp. We were successful locating them, then grabbing them up. We transported the snakes back to our building in the brown paper bags our mothers ordinarily stuffed with sandwiches. In the aftermath of the episode in which I terrorized a group of girls playing Potsy, my parents' attitude toward my bringing serpents home changed. Ruth and George became unbending in their opposition to my keeping snakes as pets. According to my parents, the frogs, tadpoles, and turtles I caught were okay to keep as pets, but not snakes. They were too scary. Joel's parents were opposed to keeping the snakes he caught, but somehow Joel, using big science words like herpetology, prevailed upon his parents to let them make a home. I think he used the word habitat for the snakes he caught. The snakes would live in an empty fish tank. Since my parents no longer allowed me to have pet snakes, I gave the snakes I caught to Joel, who placed them in the tank along with his. That tank lay on the lower platform of a double-decker aquarium stand located against the wall in the Freedman's dinette. 20 serpents slithered about the lower tank. Joel dedicated the aquarium resting on the upper portion of the stand to tropical fish. Jewish women of a certain generation adopted the game of Mahjong. As far as I could tell, Jewish women all over Brooklyn played this game imported from China. 5 mothers from my building and the building across the court played Mahjong at least 1 and often 2 evenings a week. The ladies played on the dinette table in the hostess's apartment. Each woman played 4 rounds. Each round a different player took a turn sitting out. They played a generous game too. The most a woman could lose was $1. The game itself rotated from apartment to apartment. On any evening, the hostess prepared food to serve all the players. I was happy when the game arrived in my apartment because my mother baked a delicious rice pudding. With so much to go around, my mom always gave me a sizable portion. Lillian, Joel's mother, hosted a noteworthy game. She had the wisdom to place a tablecloth over the fish tank on the lower platform of the aquarium stand. That tablecloth rested there every time the Mahjong game rotated into the Freedman's apartment. All the Mahjong ladies, in fact everyone who visited the Freedman's apartment, found the tank that Joel arranged on the upper portion of the stand lovely. There were angelfish, neon tetras, zebrafish, gouramis, and even kissing gouramis. That upper tank was never covered. It was always there for all to see and enjoy. In the midst of this Monday night game in the Freedman's dinette, Sylvia Wexler asked, "Lillian, what's in the lower fish tank?" "Oh, nothing of interest." "Lillian, show us what's under the tablecloth." "Like I said, there's nothing of interest." Sylvia rose from her chair. "Come on, what's in the tank, Lillian?" Sylvia walked around the table slowly. "Please, Sylvia, sit down. There's nothing that would interest you." Sylvia approached the tank. "The upper tank is so nice, Lillian. What's in the tank you have covered?" Sylvia was now standing next to the aquarium stand. She reached down. Her fingers touched the tablecloth covering the lower tank. "Don't do it." Sylvia peeled the tablecloth away from the lower tank, unveiling the tank's contents. Ah! There were screams, there were shrieks. All the ladies, all except Lillian, hurriedly jumped out of their seats. In the mayhem, Mahjong tiles tumbled to the linoleum. A 3-crack, a 2-bam, a north. Someone's tile rack lay precipitously half on, half off the dinette table. The ladies hightailed it out the door. Still seated, Lillian watched the stampede. Sylvia stuck her head in the doorway. Standing at the threshold, wagging her index finger, she told Lillian, "If you ever want us to play Mahjong in your apartment again, you've got to get rid of those snakes." The next day, Lillian told Joel that he must get the snakes out of the house. It was a sad day. Joel and I extracted the snakes one by one from the lower aquarium. We reluctantly placed them again in brown paper sandwich bags and returned them to the several rock piles in the lots across Farragut Road. I turned my thoughts to the snakes already living in the rock pile when we arrived with their pals. I imagined those snakes in the rock pile saying, in a kind of Fess Parker, Davy Crockett, Tennessee twang, "Welcome back, fellers."